Minoru Yamasaki, designer of the World Trade Center Twin Towers, had a vision of a world in balance. I feel this way about it. World trade means world peace, and consequently, the World Trade Center buildings in New York had a bigger purpose than just to provide room for tenants. The World Trade Center is a living symbol of man's dedication to world peace. Beyond the compelling need to make this a monument to world peace, the World Trade Center should, because of its importance, become a representation of man's belief in humanity, his need for individual dignity, his belief in the cooperation of men, and through cooperation, his ability to find greatness. Minoru Yamasaki, greatbuildings.com. Divine Discoveries at Ground Zero, a multimedia presentation by Connie Baxter Marlow. Presented in Sedona, Arizona, January 16, 2004. Aspen, Colorado, June 28, 2005. An uplifting look at the events of September 11, 2001 that triggered the opening of the human heart and the rebirth of America, heralding the coming of peace on earth, with substantiating evidence and perceptions of America. For more information, go to theamericanevolution.com, youtube.com, The American Evolution. Perceptions of America. Kyriacos Markides, author, sociologist, Orono, Maine, September 2003.
My name is Kyriacos Markides. I came to the United States in 1960 as a student, but I've been in the US now for the last 43 years. I became an American citizen in 1978, and I teach sociology at the University of Maine for the last 31 years. Being a sociologist familiar with the work of people like Peter Sorokin, the founder of the Harvard Sociology Department, he predicted in the 30s that we are moving into an age of spirituality and faith because materialist civilization has exhausted itself. And the pendulum is swinging in the direction of a spiritual renaissance. And as a French contemporary philosopher pointed out, I forgot his name. Anyway, he said that the 21st century either will become spiritual or it will not be. And I think the United States is in the forefront of this spiritual revolution if we are going to have a 21st century. But we have to understand, we have to become spiritual, not religiously fundamentalists that pushes us in the direction of separating ourselves from the rest of the world. You know, we need the spirituality that enhances our compassion and a spirituality that embraces the world, not to wage war with the world. We in the United States have experienced the illusion of prosperity as the way to happiness. And we realize that's not the way to happiness. It's something else that will give us bliss and happiness. But we had to go through it in order to realize that it is an illusion. If we were to be happier with greater material comforts, then we shouldn't have the high rates of suicides and mental illness and crime, all of these problems that we are facing in our society. America is a place where one can freely express his or her views and ideas. And in this open system, human nature can find a fertile ground to express itself. What am I saying? I'm saying that in the American cultural DNA, there is that religious perspective that can be brought out in the same way that we can bring back our own memories. It won't be something that is alien to America, but it was as if Americans will rediscover who they truly are. You can say that with other people in other cultural traditions, but specifically for America, where religion has played such an important role in the very creation of the society. Don't forget that people came here because they were running away from persecutions in Europe, religious persecutions. Therefore, the way American society developed was in such a way that the opposition between religion and the state never materialized here. And very wisely, the fathers of the American Constitution created this principle of the separation of church and state, which protected religion in America. The founding fathers did not banish God from the picture. What they banished was a denominational kind of monopoly of how God is being defined. In the very Constitution, they talk about all human beings are created in the image of God. These are very deeply spiritual principles. The scientific paradigm is very powerful for what it does, but it cannot tell us anything about the world beyond the realms of science. Because unfortunately, we have equated reality with the reality studied by science. And because science cannot study anything over and beyond his realm, some scientists assume that there is no world beyond that. And therefore, if you come up with this conclusion, then automatically we arrive at nihilism. It's a very nihilistic philosophy that can lead people to self-destruction. So we need a spiritual understanding of our place in the universe if we are to survive as a species. Because through this kind of spiritual understanding, we'll come to terms with the earth. We will not destroy the earth. We'll be in harmony with the earth. And this is what Native Americans can teach to modern Americans, that if we want to survive in the long run, we have to reestablish a loving relationship to the earth. Tribal societies have survived for thousands of years because they lived in harmony with the earth. But somehow our religious understanding got distorted, and we have waged war against the earth. Instead of being custodians of the earth, as we were urged to do, we misinterpreted the Gospels and Genesis that conquer the earth, meaning violate the earth. And that's a misinterpretation. The great saints of Christianity, the way they related to nature was the way native peoples have an understanding of nature, befriending nature. And you notice that there are stories of saints that had pets, lions and tigers. And in other words, once they reach the state of God realization, while still being in this body, they reestablish peace between themselves and the natural world, which included the animals. That's why in the paradisiac state there is this notion of Adam and Eve in harmony with nature. We can reestablish this harmony, and we see that harmony happening in the lives of individual saints. And these are the beacons that can help us realize what we may be ourselves. So the world will get better as human beings individually get better. American society, by being multicultural, can contribute to the opening up of the spiritual dimension of man, of humanity, because we are forced to re-examine our limited identities. So as we encounter other people's other traditions and we are expected to live harmoniously in the same territory, we have to re-examine all that baggage that we bring along that tells us that we belong to the most superior culture in the world. We need to overcome that in order to embrace the world. Yeah, I think the United States has a spiritual mission. And I think Jacob Needleman wrote extensively in his latest book, American Soul, where he sees the mystical side of America. And that mystical side really is the kind of world where people from radically different traditions and backgrounds can live in peaceful neighborliness, that people can learn to appreciate each other's culture and to begin looking upon the other as a human being first and foremost, and then everything else. The openness of American society is conducive to the emergence of a spirituality that could have been suppressed in earlier periods and in other societies. We see that all over the United States today with the appearance of monasteries from all the religions. We find Buddhist monasteries, we find ashrams, we find Greek Orthodox monasteries, and I believe that monasteries are the institutional setups for the systematic cultivation of the religious experience. So all these struggles that we've had in the United States, the civil rights movement, the rights of minorities, all of these things were a necessary struggle for the development of this kind of consciousness. And we are responsible in many ways to teach to the rest of the world this kind of neighborliness. Therefore, when we violate those norms, whether it is in our foreign policy or whether we violate them in our domestic affairs, we violated the soul of America, you see. And the idea of all human beings are created equal and they are endowed by certain rights. This is what John the Evangelist would say in the Gospel, that all human beings have the Christ within. All human beings that come into it, the light that lighteth every human being that comes into the world, which means that the individual is sacred. And we find that notion in the American Constitution. All human beings are created equal. It is that very idea that inspired Martin Luther King to start the civil rights movement, because he was calling Americans to live up to the ideals of the Constitution, you see. So I'm not saying that only America has this spiritual mission. Had I been an Indian from India, India has a terrific spiritual mission. In the same way that I think that Mount Athos has an incredible spiritual mission in the world today, to show that there is a path towards God that is experiential, and that we have made a mistake to assume that we reach God through our intellects. We have to reach God through the cleansing of our hearts. And I think Henry David Thoreau understood that there is an inner reality that we need to contact. And in the process of doing that, we'll become more perfect. Because we share the same human nature. And deep down in every human being, there is spirit. And anybody who taps into that reaches the same kind of conclusions. So if you look at the mystics of China, of India, of Western Europe, Christianity, deep down you find the same teachings, and what they do in India and Tibet and in China, you find them done among Native American mystical traditions. So it's the same human nature that manifests itself in different cultural traditions. And we have the luxury in the United States to live in a world where all these traditions have come together now. And I can learn about Buddhism and Hinduism not only by reading books, but by meeting Buddhists and Hindus and Muslims. And this is the greatness of America, the unity in diversity, and it is the source of the strength of the country, I believe.